morning, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order for the Board of Water and Wastewater Commissioners agenda for the Howard Water Department at 196 Chatham Road, Howard, Mass. Thursday, May 5th, 2022 at 11 a.m. All right, call to order, executive session, public comments, and announcements. Consent agenda for the minutes for April 7th, 2022 will be ready for our next meeting. First abatement is 4 Braddock's Lane, 114 parallel and 109 parallel. And it seems, according to the write-up, it was just 3 missed appointments, and the gentleman was sick with COVID. Is there anything else to that, or?
It was just miscommunication between the parties, because one had gone down with COVID, but he forgot to mention their appointment, but
okay.
Because of their illness.
All right, so basically we're looking for a motion for an abatement for 4 Braddock's. The gentleman owns 3 properties. It's $50 for each property, so an abatement for $150.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the abatement for 4 Braddock Lane, 114 Parallel Street and 109 Parallel Street.
Second.
In the amount of $150.
We have a second from Noreen. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
You know, I read this on my computer, and my eyes aren't that good. But I was wondering if we could I realize it's about a missing meter, and there was some back and forth with the customers. Is that this one, the missing meter?
Are you talking about
2300?
23 Kendrick? That's what we're doing next.
Yeah, is that the missing meter?
Well, Lee says yes.
Okay. So I was just wondering if somebody could just give a little overview. I could tell there was back and forth, but...
I think Noreen's gunning for my job, so I was just going to ask you to do that.
She's going to use words instead of giving you
She is. So besides the rest, could you just give us a little background? Because it does say it's been out of service for over 40 years.
No, we change meters every so few years, and I believe this particular meter was somewhere in the 2000s.
Okay.
So now it may have been the case with the house itself, but not with the meter.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't have meters in the system that way, so.
Okay.
So yes, we went down to change the meter, and the technician went down to discover the meter was no longer there. It had been removed entirely from the property, and so I had no way of knowing the end reading for billing, so I did an estimation, and I guess at that time on site, someone had mentioned to the technician that the meter would be returned to us at some point, and it eventually was about a month and a half later. Someone had brought it into the office for us. So I was able to then adjust the estimate for the replaced usage. So, but before that happened, when it was discovered to be missing, we sent the letter letting them know that it was a tamper, the equipment that had been removed from the property, and so we imposed the.
So the $1,000 is the tampering fine.
What was their excuse?
It was under construction.
Does that happen?
No, they're not supposed to touch the other side.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of,
It's
everybody
sealed.
knows that, right? Yeah.
Right?
So
Yeah.
So they're looking for $1,000 to be abated. So on top of the tampering fee, what did you come up with for a bill for the water usage?
Well, after I received the old meter last month, there was only a difference of $1,000 on there, so I adjusted it down to $1,000. So one thing they did mention in their abatement request is that from when they purchased the property to when it was discovered missing, we don't know at what point it was actually removed. So we did get a final reading from the meter for the closing, 2020, so the meter was there at that time. That's all we know, but we don't know when it went missing after that.
So we have a live reading from that property in 2020.
And that was before it was sold?
We get a reading in preparation for the closing, so that the, it can switch hands, change ownership. And then we calculate the bill, we send it to them so that they know how much to go with the property. So what happened after that period, at what time we don't know.
So the total bill is $1,000, and they're looking for a total assessed abatement for $1,000. All right.
I make a motion to deny?
Is there a second?
I second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Wellesley. All right, 10 Rainbow. So a water pipe burst under the kitchen sink on or around February 5th and flooded continuously from the pipe for 8 to 10 days. The owners were out of state at the time. The water caused significant damage to the home and had been demoed down to the, I'm guessing, studs. Are they seasonal? Do they have shut off?
No.
Question.
Well, Noreen.
So they mentioned in the write-up that there was, a lot of damage to the property. I'm gonna make a crazy assumption that they put that damage to their homeowners, and that may or may not be true, but if it was true, then you would think they would have included the water bill for their homeowners.
I don't think homeowners
Okay.
will cover a water bill. I don't believe they have.
Yeah, I don't
No,
Oh, will, good.
they will not cover
Yeah.
water bill.
They won't.
They won't cover, insurance company does not cover the problem, what caused it. They cover the damage.
Replacement.
Okay, interesting.
So,
All right, so I mean, it looks like they had a broken pipe.
so the thing froze up, broke, leaked, caused the damage. I move we deny.
Is there a second?
Second, so there, it's a second home? I mean, there was no heating? Or,
Have
It
you done
appears
it?
based on the
The owner was out of
usage
state.
history that it's seasonal,
yeah.
just
so-
they typically don't have any consumption in the March or June bills.
I will second the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
This is the first freeze up we've had in a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Global warming.
Yeah, no, we don't like them either.
all right, next one is the Howard Water Department.
Yeah, I move we-
Hydrant meter use Route 28,
Tonight.
date of work, September 24th. The bid is for $120.
I move we approve.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Noreen?
I was
It's
just
like a joke.
trying to understand why it says the company went out of business. Why is it our water bill and not somebody else's? I just don't understand.
Oh, it's about this company.
Yeah.
This is the foreclosure, the
Wellesley?
Is that just a?
So this was for a hydrant meter, so it can't be assigned to any particular property or ownership other than that meter. So, after a lot of research, trying to track these people down, I even called neighboring properties to see if the company was still, in the vicinity. And that was in multiple towns as well, multiple states. And they all said that they had moved out long ago, and then I found an article online saying that they dissolved at the end of December 2021. So I think it was due to COVID or something like that. So.
Yeah, I don't see if we can do much about it at this point.
Yeah.
I know you can't do much, but I'm just trying to understand it. So
Yeah.
it was a meter on the hydrant. Normally, they would be billed for it if they were
Yeah,
there?
Yeah.
To fill a truck or something.
Oh, it fills, okay,
Full.
trucks and stuff. So, okay, so this was used before they closed or disappeared, gotcha.
That's right,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
So we have a motion, we have a second. No other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Dan, here's your proud moment. Go for it.
Yeah, so in the packet, I did include a couple of screenshots of our tank trends. So last week, we had a vendor out to give us a hand overhauling the altitude valve at the Route 39 tank. Was the last piece of the puzzle for getting the Pleasant Lake tank project buttoned up to completion. So you can see on the first page in the trends, you can see these, at the blue line, which is the Pleasant Lake tank, there's some big spikes. That was due to the undersized fill pipe that was currently, at the time, at the P Lake tank. So if you go to the next trend line, you can see there's no more big spikes when the pumps turn on or off. And now for the first time since the P Lake tank has been built, the water level, that blue line, went above the black line. So since 2010, I think, when that tank was built, we've probably only got 60 to 70% capacity in the tank. So that gives us another, 400,000 gallons or so up in the air. So this is a big accomplishment.
And that black line represents?
The 39 tank. So the 39 tank and the Pleasant Lake tank overflow at different elevations. So there's an altitude valve at the 39 tank that closes during the filling cycle to allow the Pleasant Lake tank to top off. So that valve was failed, so that was what we had to overhaul last week, and we transitioned on Monday to the P Lake tank.
It's amazing how the lines are smoothed out too. And I mean, there's a lot of crags and,
So you're saying that
Yeah,
the other one's taller, so the altitude valve shuts
yeah.
Yeah.
and fills, so you'll be able to fill, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Never know.
Very interesting. Yeah. Can you capture any energy from?
Believe me, it's something I've thought about.
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah.
We should put a little hydroelectric generator inside these fill
Yeah.
pipes to, but
There's actually an
different
RFP
discussion for
out,
another day,
yeah.
but.
Clean Energy Center has an RFP on that.
Is that it again for that?
Yep.
All right. Water rates, FY23 water rates.
All right.
Is there anyone with the font bigger on this, Dan? I mean,
Yes.
it's always board.
I lost it.
I know. If you want, give me a sec. I can go print off 11 by 17.
Do you want us to
This
see
is
it?
last month.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
Is
so
that all right?
smart. I should have left mine.
Yeah, let me,
Yeah.
is that all right? We pause for a sec? I can go.
No, I mean, no, that's all right, we can go on. I'll just,
Do the
I'm kinda-
accordion.
I'm parked it up over here.
Yeah. Let me go print some big ones.
would you mind?
One sec.
Thank you.
Yeah. We'd be
While
back.
he's gone, can I tell you about a good show I saw the other night? It won't learn anything about water, but it was very interesting. It was on American Experience, and you can Google it. It's called Flood in the Desert. And it was all about Mulholland and the original building of the dam, kind of like the story behind the movie Chinatown, the real story, and the aqueduct that they built for 200 miles from taking the water from those farmers in the valley out to the sea, and the crash of the dam that killed hundreds and hundreds of people, and changed the whole way we think about water, in a way, because, should we be moving water geographically from one area to another, kind of like the same of everything to do. But I just saw it the other night, and it was just really well, it's only an hour, nice and fascinating, and just, by the way,
Yeah.
flood in the desert.
Check that out.
I also love the movie Chinatown.
Is that with Jack Lemmon?
Yeah, no, Jack,
Nicholson?
yes, thank you.
Okay.
Wrong tag. Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say, have you seen Ozark?
No.
The end of that was crazy.
I know, right? Poor Ruth.
I know. She went down.
Oh, let me see Ozark.
My I finally adjusted, I can see the numbers now. Never mind, Dan, I can see them now.
Oh, it's great.
Can't hold it out, 10 more feet.
If Leslie held it for me, maybe I'd be able to see it.
My eyes are getting old too. I just put my butt.
Real nice, Leslie, thanks. I think I have an appointment next week, for another prescription, I hope.
They drove off without reading glasses, so these are glasses I wear when I'm driving. I can read the street signs. I'm getting by, but it's fine.
I know, I'm like, 'cause there, all right.
Cool.
Thank you.
That's good, that's a real
Yeah, I like to see it, all right.
Oh, you're the best, Dan. Thank you. Wow. Yeah.
All right, sorry, Dan, thank you.
No, all good. So, the table that's attached to the back, I updated this week based upon the 5-year capital plan that was submitted to capital outlay. A couple changes that I would draw your attention to for project number 3, the FY24 new source permitting and design. Based on, I reached out to GZA, who's been coordinating the well exploration, to get some budget figures. The next phase in that project is looking around 600,000, so I did increase that for
What do we have there?
the prolonged pump test with DEP. It's what's the next step?
No, what was the number value we had there?
We had $500,000.
Okay.
That was hopeful, that was the conservative, or the lower number, if you will.
Yep.
It looks like the 600,000 is going to get us through the prolonged pump test, and then get the well approved and permitted, and then from there, there'll be another request in another out year that we'll have to discuss and incorporate into the plan for the design and actual construction.
Okay.
So this, I wanted to at least increase that figure to reflect the next step in the process. So everything that was on our 5-year plan is now in this rate table, which informs the big dashboard on that front page. So
Okay.
the biggest difference between last week's and this week's is the additional debt payments for the Route 28 water main replacement have been carried forward, as well as I put the $3 million price tag for Project 10, the FY25 distribution system upgrades. That was intended to be the construction appropriation for the $300,000 that was approved on Monday. So I wanted to put that in there as well, so we could capture what that debt would look like in our fiscal plan, if you will. So this is, I guess, the latest and greatest version. You'll notice on the front page on the dashboard, the addition of all these new projects does have a considerable impact on our retained earnings balance beginning in FY25. That said, with the principal forgiveness that we can touch upon when we get more information, we'll likely make those dollar figures go down and make the situation better. But if we continue on the path that we're on and we don't get principal forgiveness, if the infrastructure bill didn't exist, this would be the trajectory. And I would say by FY25, we would be looking at doing another rate increase.
So with the water rate plan that we have right now, with going into this year with our planned, what is it, the 5% increase?
Yep.
That'll get us out to FY '25 with these new numbers.
Correct.
Originally, before this, what were we looking at to get, was it FY '27 or '26?
Yeah, it was, I believe it was 27 was when our revenue was gonna start hitting our complete we were gonna start losing that 10% budgeted
Right.
surplus
Okay.
in that FY '27.
All right. So it's kind of a wait and see. Noreen, do you have a question?
No, that's all right, go ahead.
So it's kind of a wait and see too, as far as what the infrastructure bill is gonna do for us.
Right.
Because that could,
That could change this dramatically in the other direction.
and you had a call the other day and learned nothing new as far as what they're gonna do.
Not for, on the drinking water side.
Noreen?
Yeah, so this probably has to do with, you know, when things get updated or stuff like that. So I was trying to go from the chart from last month to this one, and I know we had discussed it, but part of what threw me was the line, under, where you have all these zeros in yellow. Is that retained earning balance? My eyes can't quite.
No, that's retained earnings expense. in
Right.
Yellow, yeah.
And so, why are they zeros? Because last month, all right,
So, this table
yeah,
last month was very different than
Right.
what it is now.
Right.
So, there are zeros today because as of FY '25, we aren't proposing to spend any fund projects directly from retained earnings. They're all debt from that point on. And that we had for FY '27 was, let me see,
750?
yeah, I want to say that was we had 1.75 out there for the Pleasant Lake tank painting. And that right now is in FY '25, which I'll have to check because I feel like that was actually later.
I don't know, I'm just not following this.
So this table, right, these figures down here
Right,
are what's on that front
On here.
page, yeah.
so why aren't they on here?
I have to look and see exactly what that was tied to, that 750. Pause for 1 second.
All right. Where did they go?
recalling now. So, and Sandy, I may actually help me explain this if I miss part of it, right? So, when we set up the rate table, when we built this back in 2018, there was a lot of discussion about how to account for retained earnings expenses, as well as debt, and how to incorporate the capital plan. The confusion was surrounding the fact that we have a certified retained earnings for fiscal year '22. That money was earned in fiscal year '21, but it can't be appropriated to the following year. So there was a juggle, if you will, to try to make this so that we have rate-funded capital for our FY '22 and where it populated in the out years.
Okay.
Now, that, I believe, going back to the old sheet, is why that 750 was pushed out. When I went through this time to update the sheet, I did a lot of cleaning up.
Okay.
And I believe that now this is much more accurate than the previous one, because the other capital improvement plan had a lot of historical items in it too, that I was able to eliminate and clean up. There was about 27 projects, including historical ones, that were bulked into this capital improvement plan. So this is, and we can follow through.
Could we take like one number, like FY '25?
Yeah.
So in FY '25 on that line, which doesn't matter, you've cleaned things up and added things at different times, but at any rate, that was 500,000. But FY '25 on this one, on this, you've got 1.8 divided between the two sources, rate and debt. So you've got 1.8 there. So it seems to me that one of those numbers should be coming down here.
That $500,000 that was in that right there, I believe that 500,000 at the time was the new well source construction, the 500 we were just talking about.
Yeah, okay.
And so that was where that.
All right, so I'm going to forget about the 500. But, okay, still on FY '25, it adds up to 1.8 divided between those two sources. So why isn't anything under FY '25 on this chart?
So that is located in the, let's see, so the 1.025 is down here.
Okay. Okay.
So it's in two places.
Right.
In that, the 1.8.
Okay. Yeah. So where's the 783,960?
The 783,960.
From debt.
Hold on. I had a heck of a time going through this all yesterday.
You must have. I couldn't figure it out.
Oh, so that's new debt. Oh, it's on page 1.
Okay.
It's not here. That
Thank
has
you.
a whole nother matrix
All right.
that has,
Yeah.
so at the top of this workbook, you can imagine, we did A through K, I believe.
Right.
So it's about 700 cells down, so at the top bar, it is where the debt is carried.
Right.
And new debt and old debt.
So given that, because we don't have to know every single little widget, but this is really what you feel are the current outlook for our projects, which is good to have. And what we really, without knowing every widget, should be concentrating on here is it's not that much different from the original for our final lookout at this point, and that's what we should be focusing on.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the FY '23, '24, '25, I would say.
Right, gotcha. Okay, all right. I was looking for something that wasn't there, then I...
Apologies, I didn't realize
No
it wasn't.
problem. That's all right.
Next time I'll have my computer,
All
so we
right.
can,
And on the top page of the improvement planner,
yeah.
number 12, says FY 2022 Route 28 design, and it has it date of 2022 for 500,000.
Yeah.
What's that?
That was the article that was passed, was it Fall Town Meeting?
Yeah.
For the Route 28, for the Route 28 water main
So it's already
replacement
been-
design.
Yeah, we've already.
Yeah, it's already been designed.
I just got confused because it's number 12 on the.
Because I added it last, and the way that these formulas are written, I would have had to redo the entire plan to put it back up at the top, and it would have taken me another hour and a half to do.
So it's no priority, there's.
Yeah,
I was wondering why it was there again. I thought we already did this.
I started it from FY '23, and then as I got to the end, I wanted to back that 500,000 in because I wanted to see where it would put our retained earnings
All right.
figure, see how, if it changed anything on the table.
All right. So, going back to our budget plan, we were planning to budget for 10% for retained earnings.
Yep.
How far out does that put it though? Because it doesn't look like,
We're
I mean,
retained earnings revenue goal. So we are, I mean, once we get beyond FY '24,
yeah, it's kind of like really,
Right.
and that's where the debt
yeah.
we pick up for the Route 28 project. So that's the big thing on retained earnings.
All right.
Another thing that was also incorporated into last week's model was there was a double accounting of debt that I discovered and was able to
Right.
pull out.
So,
Go ahead, Noreen.
I mean, with this all updated, it almost makes me wonder if we should be considering looking at planning another increase for next year.
Well, right now, with this model, this year is a $10 base rate increase and a 5% increase on all tiers.
Not the base. The base was last year, just 5%.
It's just a 5%?
Yeah. It was 10% base for last year, and it was, and 5%, and then it was only intended for 5% on the
All right,
rates.
so not 10%, just a 5.
Yeah.
All right, that's $10, all right. So with the 5% increase on all tiers for 22 and 23, that'll get us out to 25.
Yeah. I would say 24, 25 warranting.
Again, waiting to see what happens with the infrastructure bill. Because we
Right.
could get a lot of relief from that infrastructure bill.
Right.
Right.
One thing I can say, and I don't want to go too out of order, under new business B, I did attend an SRF webinar presentation this week. Unfortunately, there wasn't a ton of new information.
So that's step one.
State revolving
Oh.
fund for where the infrastructure money is going to be funneling through.
Oh, yeah.
The one thing that they did say was that a lot of it's going to be prioritized towards disadvantaged communities, which, believe it or not, Harwich is categorized as a disadvantaged community, so that's a good thing.
What are the qualifications for that, just for
It's
people
a
listening?
calculation that's done every year with property, median household income, and they release a list every year for this tier 1, 2, and 3. If looking at last year's figures, we were eligible for 3.3% principal forgiveness on water projects, 6.6 on wastewater projects.
Okay.
I expect those percentages to go up with the infrastructure money because they're targeting disadvantaged communities.
And we'd always been prior to COVID. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see what the
We'll
next,
see what happens with the new year-round residents.
It's been a long time since we got any gifts like that, serious money, you know?
Was was there any further information on that other list that I haven't had a chance to look into yet, that forward bill?
I was looking at something on that today. We had sent one of the things that, I guess to diverge a sec, one of the things that, they passed the forward bill, there's a bunch of earmarks in it. We had sent a memo, me, John Ivan, and Carol put together a memo to try to seek earmarks for ARPA money. She sent it off to someone, I'm not quite sure. I just requested a copy of the memo from her this morning. And a lot of what they're saying in, these discussions is, talk to your legislators. So that's my next, I'm gonna try to go up the chain in that direction and see. We have a memo already drafted. We have, I wanna say, 10 to 15 projects with funding narratives all identified. So I'm gonna try to pursue through that avenue to see if we can't get earmarks.
There was a bill I saw that had never heard of, and it listed all of the 351 towns, and it was
Oh, that.
being funded by the state, half through ARPA and half through some bond reinvestments. And they automatically gave to it looked like, it was very hard to read, I'm sure there'll be more info. It looked like that they automatically gave $250,000 flat to every single city and town for downtown recovery. I can't believe that ARPA money is gonna go to, painting crosswalks. It just doesn't seem, it seems so unfair, that grandchildren will be paying for that money forever. And it was meant for, COVID relief, and it's going to painting crosswalks, so. But in addition to the downtown recovery, there were a few other towns that were already earmarked for like 12 million for sewer and stuff like that. So that's when I contacted Dan to try to figure it out, but I still don't understand the whole thing.
And is that going forward, or is that voted through?
Sounded like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing, huh? But maybe we can get something out of it,
Yeah.
let's see, so.
Well, then, with all of these new numbers, I think we should just stay on track with the 5% rate increase this year, and hopefully get us out to 25 and reevaluate in 25, and hopefully we may not have to do anything by that
Right.
point.
And can I ask you a question? Are there any long-term studies of what communities our size have done as far as retained earnings, or what their needs were for rebuilding infrastructure for water infrastructure that was 60 years old?
As far as retained earnings balance, contributions, or?
Yeah, how they funded, I don't know, is it something that they could fund just out of their operations, or did they have to do larger bonding with the town? Just different ways that were approached, and also if there's kind of a formula of at year 50, X amount of the pipes absolutely needed to be replaced. Are there those kind of formulas? Or
I don't know, it's not formula per se, I guess that sort of information's incorporated into the water system master plan, where they, do a thorough evaluation of, the total assets of the department and prioritize infrastructure replacement with funding plans, which we do have, a
Right.
capital plan, a 20-year master plan for the department, that does identify just that.
I guess my question is, and I don't know, I have this worst case scenario that the failure it's a much larger failure in a shorter period of time, and do we need to build I don't know what the correct term is, but a larger capital fund to replace things?
Yeah, I mean, it's a balance, right? I don't
Right.
think and also, we don't want to put $7 million into retained earnings, because now we're potentially overcharging residents for, projects. So there's what's been tossed around in some of the enterprise fund workshop, I attended one, was 25% of your operating budget should be kind of a minimum retained earnings balance. So for us, that's around $1 million, $1.25 million that we should try not to deplete beyond. And that can cover, emergencies as they come. When you start to talk about, major infrastructure projects, I don't see it being very feasible to fund those out of retained earnings.
Back to
Definitely
the
not.
town. Okay,
Definitely not.
thank you. Sorry, didn't want to get us off track.
That's all right. All right, any other questions about the improvement planner and the water rates?
I'll bring this back to next meeting with
Yeah,
page 1, that
yeah.
Well, this
It gets annoying
this gives us a better idea of where we are with all the new numbers.
I like that.
All right.
Yeah,
doozy of an Excel sheet, I can tell you that.
Yeah. This is awesome, though.
All right. The 2021 Annual Statistical Report.
So I just wanted, this was on the last agenda as well. I didn't have it done at that time, so I wanted to just update the board that the 2021 Annual Statistical Report is done. I didn't print 5 copies because it's 63 pages each, but I do have a copy of the actual document for anyone who wants to thumb through it. Included in the packet was the confidently estimated municipal usage calculations that go into the Consumer Confidence Report, or the Annual Statistical Report, sorry. And what that all gets to is one of the annual things that we need to watch out for is unaccounted for water. DEP mandates that we have to be below 10% unaccounted for water, so that's water used during fire protection, hydrant flushing, things of that nature. Also, when we get our master water meters calibrated every year, we're allowed to calculate over or under, kind of prorated throughout the year to account for over-registering of meters or under-registering of meters. So our unaccounted for water for 2021 was 6.4%, which is great. Beyond that, we are permitted presently, because we haven't received our new Water Management Act permit yet. We're still operating under the old permit that expired in 2010, which had a authorized withdrawal volume of 2.16 million gallons per day. With the pumping we did last year, we did go to 2.17 million gallons per day, which is within the allowable buffer that DEP grants Cape communities. So we're within the limits of our existing permit.
So we're still operating since 2010.
Yeah. To my knowledge, Orleans is the only department on the Cape, or at least the outer Cape, mid-outer Cape, that's received a new permit. Yeah. I don't know why they're waiting, but...
Are they just understaffed? Like, I mean, is that a factor?
12 years, I mean...
Yeah, you would think they'd get it done.
Yeah.
It's like catch-up.
My feeling is that they're hoping to see how far out they can go without.
Well, I was told too that it's, when we are provided a new permit, even though we're 12 years into the permit cycle, it's not going to start from year 0. We're going to start from year 12, and we'll get 8 more years out of the permit. So it's kind of short-sighted, but...
Yeah.
And they don't give you any explanation? They come down here for vacation.
Here's one question.
Yeah.
What's the street sweeping total about?
The DPW has a hydrant meter that they use to fill the street sweeper, so that is the highway department's water use.
I didn't realize the street sweeper that comes by used water.
Yeah.
Really?
Keeps the dust down.
You notice that little wet street?
Yeah, it's like a
I
snail.
probably forgot about it as soon as it was up
Plus,
3
it's easier-
houses, you know.
It's easier to vacuum than wet.
Okay, that's for the statistical report?
Nope.
All right, sewer regs, we're gonna hold off on that. Follow-up to town meeting.
I put this on just as a placeholder, not knowing what the results of town meeting would be. I'm sure everyone knows that our 2 articles did pass, as well as the wastewater operating 4 articles, I guess, including the budgets.
Maureen?
I think it will affect us eventually, but, you know, maybe not. Maybe I'm the only one who interpreted what I heard the way I did, but it seemed to me that per your capital plan, which is always going back and forth for hours, it seemed to me that what Sandy Hall said, who was on the charter committee back when those changes were first formulated, was completely different from what we've been talking about for 3 years. So as long as we're in sync, because for 3 years it was saying if you change any number, you know, if you go from 30 million to 29 million. You have to have a special vote and a special process. And when Sandy stood up, she said no. She said, all it's got to do with is the order. She said, change any number you want, but if you move it from 25 to 24. That's what she said, it only has to do with order, which is so strange because for 3 years, the Capital Outlay Committee has been going on a different premise as far as I understand it. So as long as we understand it the same, I'm not sure who prevailed in the end, quite honestly, but it's almost now even more confusing than it was before, so.
See, I liked Sandy's.
Oh, I did too. I wish we heard it 3 years ago.
Yeah. Because to have to get a 2/3 majority to lower a budget figure seems extraneous.
I agree.
But I could understand a 2/3 majority to incorporate a new project into the plan that hasn't been considered before. I think that speaks to the intent of what they were looking to do.
And that was the original discussion, which was too many projects for repair and boom, to be done next year without going through the years. So that makes sense to me. What doesn't make sense to me is 3 years of wasted meetings talking about the wrong conclusion. But so be it. It sounded almost like nobody ever talked to them.
Well, they disbanded right after.
Well, I know, but you know what I'm saying, So.
The charter.
Check the minutes.
Committee? Yeah.
Check the minutes
Disbanded?
and we'll find out.
That was for the updates?
What's that?
That was to update the charter?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, was it 3 years ago? Yeah, it must have been.
3 years.
I would say 2 years ago at least, if not 3.
Yeah, that they.
I know, I served on the original.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they had, I don't know what the reason for them disbanding was, but they had, I think that article was adopted and then they all resigned together.
They've been functioning recently.
Yeah, they reformed
The charter
sometime
committee
this year.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Was that an official appointment?
I think so. I think it was
I think
last
so,
fall,
oh
last
yeah,
summer.
they've been working on
Did it go
the
through town
changing
meeting?
select board to board of selectmen.
No, does it have to go through town meeting when they
Usually, yeah.
redo a committee? I don't know anymore.
I mean, to activate the committee.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
reach
somewhere
out to
along the
the-
way, they created a committee.
well, they
They
put
disband.
life back into it.
Yeah, the committee
They
resigned.
wasn't
It wasn't in.
removed from town
So
government.
it was
The
on
members
line.
itself,
Just wasn't
They
me.
just
there were no members
It was
on the committee.
repopulated, they
Yeah.
repopulated.
Okay. So this goes back to what year? When-
19, I think.
Of
Well,
2000.
Chris Clark was here, I know that.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
part of the reason.
It'll be a big help for us. It's just the same of the wasted 3 years of
Yeah.
hours and hours and hours of conversations, but that's the government, so.
Well, one other thing that came up at town meeting too that I wanted to bring up was the OPEB. So when you looked at the OPEB under the town, they had $250,000 in there. Now, we've been contributing $50,000 for at least the last 5 years, if not 6. So are you telling me that 250,000 is all the money that we've contributed and the town hasn't put a dime in it?
No, the only year I believe that they didn't contribute was last year.
Okay.
The 250, I believe, I'll have to confirm this, but I believe the 250 that you saw on Monday was this year's contribution to
It
OPEB.
was.
Okay.
We've been contributing 50,000 a year,
Right.
yeah, for
At least
5, 6 years, yeah.
Okay, so part 2 of that, we've had this discussion before. There's no way to separate the funds that we've put in to OPEB. It's just a general fund.
Correct. I asked that because,
And I know we've asked it.
Yeah.
Over and over again. And I just don't understand why we cannot have a separate fund for our employees.
I guess this is my understanding, is that because it's a town liability, right? So the whole town of Harwich, as a government entity, is on the hook for it. And we contribute, the general fund contributes, but it goes into one account that is supposed to defray that liability. I did inquire about whether or not, because when I saw that the town wasn't contributing, and we were, I inquired because, ultimately, if OPEB doesn't get funded, that's gonna impact, staff's retirement, the other health insurance and post-employment benefits. So to try to see if the town's, I don't wanna say negligence, but not funding that, fully, not fully funding it, if we would be protected, because ultimately we're trying to fund it and do the right thing. And the answer I got was no.
And just to be clear, we're not fully funding it either.
No.
Our responsibility is like, what, 180,000?
$187,000, I believe, a
Yeah,
year.
so we're not fully funding it either.
But I was we should be getting another OPEB valuation, because it's every 2 years, and the one I think we got was 2019, so
Right.
that should be coming with an updated valuation figure, an updated annual contribution figure. Our total liability, I believe, was around $2 million. So if we wanted to appropriate a $2 million article and fund it, our liability could be done.
Right.
Or we can try to incrementally increase that line item to get to a point where we're funding it satisfactory to the OPEB report.
Right.
But none of that means anything if the town and general fund also don't make an equal contribution, because it's going to remain underfunded.
And enterprise funds always, they're all set up like this, right? Their employees are not,
The only
they don't
difference,
come under,
the only condition for which it would be different is if we were a water district. As a kind of a separate government entity, we would receive our own OPEB valuation.
so they haven't done this?
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that why? No, they need to go into
There's
that.
there's a lot of pros and cons to being a
Yeah.
district.
Yeah.
I'm
More
just saying-
pros.
Huh?
More pros, in my opinion, but.
Well, definitely more pros, right. All right, any other topics for the town meeting, anything else? All right. State revolving fund?
I do have just a couple more things to add to that. So as I mentioned, I attended a webinar on Monday. They still didn't have any much better direction as to what the principal forgiveness would be for different types of projects. One thing that they, as I mentioned earlier, they are prioritizing disadvantaged communities, they're prioritizing PFAS mitigation, lead service line replacement. One thing that they did note was the Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund through SRF, so wastewater projects will be eligible for 25% principal forgiveness as of right now. That's not considering anything above and beyond that may come through the infrastructure bill. So when we look at phase 3, for wastewater construction at, 20 to 30 million, we could be looking at least a minimum of 25% principal forgiveness for the Cape and Islands Trust, as well as another 6.6% from the disadvantaged community component, as it stands today. So you could be looking at over 30% principal forgiveness for phase 3, which would be
Wow.
pretty considerable.
That'd be nice.
That'd be great.
Another thing thing that they said is, try to reach out to SRF, to the Clean Water Trust. So I'm going to do that. It's my intent to email them and try to set up a meeting and go over our capital plan, wastewater projects that are on deck, and try to see if I can get some more information from them.
Right.
At least better direction than what we have so far. Because I did ask in that webinar, they have a Q&A part at the end. I said, is there a, principal forgiveness percentage that we can budget and carry for planning purposes on the town end? Because we need to make sure that our rates are sufficient to support whatever debt, and that debt's going to be very contingent upon the forgiveness. And the answer was, no, we don't have anything to give you right now.
I hope they don't drag their feet much longer on this and try to get something in place so we can
Yeah.
take advantage of this, don't you?
That makes me think of that they're doing the design work now that will eventually become the approximately 30 million for construction, that hopefully we'll get some money from that fund. How are they doing on their timeline for design for phase 3, I'll call it?
I don't have a completed project schedule yet. What I do know is that the surveyor, they were supposed to start this Monday, the surveyor got COVID, so they're actually starting this next Monday. So they're going to be starting the ground survey for that whole phase 3 area. We have They prioritized a list of properties. We've submitted that to the health department to scan and pull in all the septic records for the whole Phase 3 area. And we're working through just pump station siting and things like that right now.
I'm just trying to, and it's way too early, but I'm trying to guesstimate timing of town meetings for votes versus timing for the planning for that, so, I mean, I'm wildly guesstimating now, but it doesn't sound like we'd be ready for a vote by next May, maybe we will. But you know what I'm saying, it's like that's when we'd be looking for the real approvals to be shovel ready for the actual infrastructure money, so.
Yeah, so what, so I guess kind of big picture schedule.
Yeah.
This summer, August, September, we'll be submitting to DEP the project evaluation form for the Phase 3 sewer project, which will get us on the intended use plan. That gets published January, February of next year,
Right.
with all the projects they intend on funding the following year. So first step is getting the PEF submitted and on the intended use plan this year, and then SRF the following.
PEF.
Project evaluation form. So what we have to do in the meantime, and I've been working with GHD to try to coordinate as well as legal counsel, if there's any land taking that we need to do for pump station siting, those would require eminent domain, town meeting votes, so we're trying to coordinate all of that, things requiring a town meeting vote, if you will. There's talk of a special town meeting this fall. If they do, that
Yeah.
would be a good opportunity.
I'm gonna fight it. I hope they don't have a special town meeting this fall, unless we needed it. That's different.
It's, well, that, and that's, we might, I think, for the wastewater project, it would help support the project timeline to get at least the land takings and things underway. Because if we don't do it,
That's, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just that last year, you know, that was the explanation for why everything else after that was late, and, you know, I don't know if the town can go through that again.
Yeah.
You know, but we'll see.
Oh, think positive, come on.
That's for Route 39?
yeah,
Are you going all the way down to Wastewater?
still to be determined. I've had some preliminary discussions with them at this point, so the benefit to picking up Waquasit, so we're doing this all for nitrogen removal purposes. We can get a concentrated nitrogen removal at Waquasit, which can reduce the amount of single-family homes that we have to sewer within the watershed. So before we can, before I can get to a point where I can say that that makes sense, what we're in the process of doing is we've requested all of the effluent data from Waquasit. We need to calculate how much nitrogen we'll be removing from Round Cove by picking them up to determine how many homes we could offset, what the dollar value is to that, how much Waquasit's willing to, pay, because they're gonna be the sole user of that force main if it goes that way. I think it makes sense from an operational standpoint as well as the nitrogen component. If we have a customer like Waquasit, we're gonna have much more stable, steady flow. We're gonna have more revenue generated from that one parcel than the trickling in of independent single-family homes. So there's some operational benefits for us getting them as well.
But they're not a full year-round operation there.
Right.
It's a season, we're gonna have good seasonal flow.
Yeah.
But,
And this is all,
yeah.
and at this point, I'm trying to get all the details together, because ultimately I intend on bringing this up to the Board of Selectmen. It's ultimately, would argue it's their kind of decision whether or not to enable that to happen or not. So I'm trying to get all the background information, how much nitrogen we're gonna get by picking them up, how many properties we could conceivably shave off the backside, so that they can make an informed decision.
I hope when, it's discussed with the Board of Selectmen, who would be the ones making that decision, I hope they consider too the fact that, sure, it definitely would look better to us, but, there could be 200 homes or areas there that really want sewers, and, should we be treating Waquasit differently than 200, residents. I mean, I hope the Board of Selectmen gets input from the larger community to make that decision, and, it's not just based on water decisions,
Well,
truly.
for me, I mean, if we're gonna hook up the faucet, I mean, yeah, that's all well and good and needs to happen. I mean, it's many, many years. Sure, they have a much better system there today. But on the other hand, I mean, our problem will not go away completely, because if we have 200 homes that aren't hooked up, I mean, that's still presenting a problem to the bay. So, for me, if we're going, we should be looking, doing whatever we can do with Quastet and 200 homes.
And 28.
I was just gonna
Same.
ask, what about 28
Yeah,
down to
28 could be done.
Harwichport?
Yeah.
Because from an environmental perspective, that's so saturated, you can't upgrade those septics, I think.
But just keep in mind, we can't send effluent from Harwichport on 28 to Chatham,
Why?
No.
because the IMA doesn't allow it, because they only...
Can the IMA be adjusted?
It can, however, I did start that conversation. I don't think Chatham's gonna go for it. That's not to say they've said no. I've had a couple, quick conversations. I think,
Is that something that the two boards would have to ultimately?
I think the town, based on what I've heard in meetings in the IMA working group, if they were gonna take wastewater from anywhere outside of what's already written in the IMA, they would wanna go back to town meeting for approval, is what they've said. And-
Chatham?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, I
that
could
makes
see
sense,
that
but-
though,
But it
But
just,
whether or not they'll have the appetite, because they're they're planning to sewer 100% of the town, whether they have the capacity at the plant to do it. They know they have capacity, and not to say that we can't sewer 28 and send it to a Dennis plant or a Harwich plant, but right now the IMA doesn't support it.
I would hope that the Board of Selectmen seriously consider whatever, 3 weeks of research, whatever it takes, to look at sewering Harwichport, because that's turned into a year-round community, much more than 20 years ago, number one. But number two, in the summer, it's a saturation point, and there isn't an alternative septic fix for it, unless you do the above-ground ones, right?
I mean, Harwichport is ultimately in the plan.
I'm asking that the Board of Selectmen instruct,
The thing of it is,
that they look at, just take the time to explore it.
I think, there's no doubt Harwichport will be sued at some point. But
I
for me,
understand that, but I'm just
For
asking
me-
that the due diligence be done at the same time that you're doing due diligence on East Harwich. I think it's an imperative thing to look at. I'm not saying to push it forward, but do the due diligence. I think environmentally and politically, it's really
all of
important.
28, as far as I can see.
Yes.
But the other side is, we need to know where we're gonna treat this waste. We need to decide if Harwich is gonna have a treatment plant, or we're gonna hook up with Dennis. We need a place for it to go. And like Dan said, it's on the fence. I don't see Charlie
Well, it might push the other way. So if that research could be done at the same time that the East Harwich research could be done, I think that will help smooth discussions about.
Well, but
right?
that was Chatham's response when I asked that question. Ultimately, was we'd want to bring it back to town meeting for, to take wastewater from another watershed outside of Pleasant Bay was the action that they felt would be required to do that.
To Judith's point, as part of the comprehensive wastewater review, I mean, I know there's certain things listed, but, I mean, it seems like that topic should be touched on.
Well, rephasing is a component of
Right,
the
so
CWP revisions.
it seems like that's where, sometimes it bothers me a little that it's, you know, it's always like Dan presenting with
Right,
Russ, you
and I know
know,
it's
to
not
them.
you.
I know,
Yeah.
and it's really their
Yeah, it's
decision
something of
of, you know, it's the Board of Selectmen's decision
Right.
of what area is next, but yet they don't get into the specifics, and they kind of take what you and Russ say, you know what I mean? So, I don't know, I think it should be part of that review that's going on right now. I would hope the due diligence would be part of it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm trying to understand what we're trying to look into.
Into what it would take to, instead of going out to Equasit, for example, to go down to Harwichport, go down 28.
Well, the other thing about that part is we've already voted to design Waquasit area. We voted that last October to design, not necessarily Waquasit, but that
Not
area.
necessarily Equasit, right? We voted funding for design,
For-
No,
not
they-
for location,
Yes.
did we?
Yes, we did.
Oh, we did.
Round Cove and
Okay.
Pleasant
We
Bay.
did, Round
watersheds.
Cove, and, yeah, the Waquasit's a new added factor, but Round Cove.
So
and
we
that-
need another vote,
Right.
in other words,
Right.
for new
That's
funding for additional
But there's nothing
design.
wrong with that. You know,
But we already have the sewer cab model, you know, for this
Yeah.
whole area. And another thing to throw into the conversation, Dennis did pass their treatment plant design article.
Last night.
Yeah,
Oh, they
on
did?
Tuesday, yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, now is the time we need to start, we, being the town of Harwich through the Board of Selectmen, need to start engaging in discussions with Dennis and their Board of Selectmen about becoming, you know, a
Partners in.
partner or customer to that treatment plant so that we can get,
That
For
makes
me,
yeah,
Yeah.
for me, we definitely need to be a partner with them.
yeah.
Right.
Because from here on out, I don't expect Chatham will take much more. I mean, they cover East Howard as they are, plus all of the town of Chatham. Chatham,
Big capacity, right?
yeah, I mean, they'll be maxed out, or to a point they don't want to take anymore. So we definitely either build our own plant, or hook up with Dennis and build one with them. So we're equal partners.
And I think too, I can't speak eloquently about it, but there is some total organic carbon that's, I believe, showing itself somewhere downstream of the effluent recharge. So that could impact their willingness to accept more flow as well, or, you know,
Do they think it's a result of the?
no, but it's just, that, you know,
It's just that-
groundwater migration, that it's been an unknown where it's gonna surface, and what, we won't know until it does, what the implications of that are. But I do recall hearing
Yep.
someone talk
The
about that.
outfall of the plant, you mean?
The effluent, you know, they have the sand beds,
Yeah.
goes in, and then ultimately either goes to Copper Cove, there's, you know, out to the Nantucket Sound, so they've been trying to trace where the effluent is gonna present itself, the
Yeah.
treated effluent.
Lot to it.
That said, the Dennis situation's promising in that, you know, there's a positive vote there, and I think that, you know, and we've had preliminary discussions leading up to town meeting with them. I think the appetite's there. I think it makes sense for both communities to do. And then I think addressing 28 just gets to where that falls in the timeline and the infrastructure to get it from there to the treatment plant. And that, I think, is a discussion at the rephasing and resequencing of the CWMP.
Okay.
Can I just conclude with one thing? You know, Judith's comments may not have been expressed at the time as the primary, you know, I mean, I watched all the meetings and Russ and the CAD was important and everything else, but I agree, it's primary in terms of importance on many residents' minds. So, you know, whether it was, you know, the number one on the list or not, it can't just be put aside.
The location, yeah.
All right. FY '22 third quarter budget updates. I'm sorry, I missed the buck slip insert. The billing information? Is it new?
Yes, so the tax office is presenting their version to the Board of Selectmen for a vote, and this is, we tweaked it slightly for our version. It's just to notify everyone that the payment address is going to be changing. The town changed the lockbox processor, so due to increased fees, so they decided to go with another company that had more reasonable fees.
All right.
So we just have to notify via our next water bill, which is July, and this change is expected to happen at some point this month.
All right.
That will be in the June, is it, Bill?
July.
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 So I don't know if you have to approve it or...
I move that we approve the buck slip presented, the insert for the next bill pertaining to the, a new remittance address for payments.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Budget updates.
So, we are 83% through our fiscal year FY '22, and our budget is right along those lines. Salary and wages, we have spent, and this is the water budget, we've spent 76% of our budget. We still have a few months left. So we're in good shape with salary and wages. That may help us to determine, Dan, whether we bring on a few seasonal staff members in June or whether we wait till July.
Great.
The water expenses, we have spent 84% of our budget, so we're right in line with where we should be this time of year. But it is the time that we start reining in and looking at what we only have to have, just erring on the side of caution. Water revenues, we have collected 95% of what we projected. We're still collecting the most recent billing, which has a remaining $149,000 is what we have to collect from the most recent billing that's actually due today or tomorrow. Tomorrow. So out of $664,000 that we billed, we only have 149 to collect.
Wow.
Yeah, so collections are great, continual. And on page 3 of the water budget report, I put a little summary of each billing cycle and what's been collected and what we billed. So we're right in the 98 percentile range.
That's great.
The wastewater budget, still fairly new to all of us, or definitely still new, and some of the, the spending thresholds are fine. Like if you look at salary and wages, it's 87% spent. That's right in line with where we would be. Wastewater expenses, there was a larger amount in professional services that we haven't even scratched the surface of spending. And I'm not sure if there's other things that maybe still have to be charged to that line item. Maybe for Weston and Sampson, perhaps.
Yes.
Yeah. So we still have more expenditures coming through wastewater.
I want to say it was around, if I remember correctly, about 10 grand a month while they're on.
And I have, run out of funding in the natural, gas line item. So I've been paying the natural gas bills out of professional services. When we move into FY '23, there's more categories and there's a better budget figure for all of, these categories. Not a lot in revenues yet, but some from our billing, $1,407 we've collected in user fees,
And I think that $989 was from the,
something else, right? What was
we
that?
completed a sewer rate relief application, myself and Carol, got probably 6-8 months ago, and we were awarded about $1,000 in rate relief.
Yeah,
So it was a
that must be
$3,000.
it. Wow, nice.
So,
Take it.
yeah, good job.
All right.
So,
Yep.
so at the bottom, is this saying to me that, right now we have a little over 600, 608 in the wastewater fund balance?
Yes.
And then,
Mhm.
and then we can anticipate, you know, let's say that the balance in that professional service line, let's say just it's gonna be 300,000, whatever, by the time it covers the others and whatever else. So is it possible that we might have $1 million in the wastewater fund balance by the end of the year?
We had,
We have like 7.
it was, if I remember, and I'm drawing a blank because I can't recall the motion at town meeting, because there was a short discussion at one point about potentially using some of the retained earnings to
Right.
supplement
We
the
did
FY '23.
200,000.
Yeah, so I think,
That has to come out of here as
Yeah.
well? Okay, well, even so, even if that follows that process, we might have like 800,000
Yeah.
or something. I mean, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, we might not have to ask the town for money next year.
So the 600,000 is if the books were to close today.
Right.
That's what would be certified. So that does include already
Ah,
professional services.
okay, all
So
right.
as we spend
Yeah.
on professional services, that number will
I
go
see.
down.
Yeah, and it might be less than 200,000 once they
Yeah.
make the adjustment from there. But on the other hand, they were giving us 357 or something in.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, it's a decent balance. It might carry it through another year in case next year gets difficult. We'll see.
Any other questions for the water wastewater budget? All right. Public Service Award, Public Water Supply Award.
so this is our first meeting since we were notified that Harwich Water Department is again the recipient of the 2022 Public Water Systems Award. So a big congrats to everyone
Yeah,
in the department that
Amazing.
makes it happen. 'Cause this is
Congratulations to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
8 years running?
Now, are you gonna go out there, Jim? Or-
Yeah,
Good,
next week, yeah.
you're taking all your good stuff.
The Council on Aging bus.
That would be great if you did, yes.
Pile out, walk up on stage,
and then there'll be all these big cities and then this big crowd from Harwich.
I can remember all the years that would happen,
Yeah,
yeah. Not here, though. I mean, other places,
right.
going to the,
So
when they
Dan,
were closer.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, no,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. So Dan, it looks like we're down 1 million gallons, 1 million gallons pumping from year to date? Is that, I mean, I see the other chart you have here. So it looks like we're almost a little bit above,
We are slightly above where we were this time last year. This
but
is...
still down.
Still down. Yeah, and that's, this is actually a 2-year trend, so this is where we were 2 years ago going into pumping season, and this is where we're at today.
You know, you see the weather reports, and the Cape seems to get left out of a lot of them.
I know, it breaks
Not
up
last night.
Plymouth.
Not last night, it didn't.
Not
Oh,
last
no,
night, that's
yeah, it
true.
came down well,
Not last night.
but, yeah.
So,
Kim,
oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
I just wanted to share something that it's kind of related. I saw somewhere that, communities, around the country do a no-mow May, where people don't mow their
We do have a
lawns
house.
for the month of May
We have
because
a
it,
house.
it helps with the pollination for the
Yeah,
bees.
seriously, yeah.
And I just think it might be cool for, I had never heard of it either.
Yeah.
I think
That's
it might
my
be
wife.
cool for, well, all right, well, maybe she will be the town spokeswoman then.
Sure she would.
To do it for next year to, as part of a water
Campaign.
campaign too?
I had someone reach out from the Cape Cod Commission too. They saw the Slow the Flow with Buck Slip and the article in the Chronicle about the native plantings, and they reached out just interested in the whole thing, so I've been starting to go back and
It
forth.
was actually the whole pollinated garden that we did last
Oh,
year.
really?
Yeah, for butterflies and bees and stuff like
Oh,
that.
nice.
Yeah, it was a lot of work, but yeah. Yeah, I came on my lawn for the month of May. We get into quite the discussion about that.
I
She
think
wins.
that would be cool to,
But yeah, it's a thing, so yeah, I mean,
yeah. And the landscape companies wouldn't be happy, but.
yeah.
We've had some calls on water restrictions. Are we going to continue with where we were last year? Are we going to modify that? Is that on one of your?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to, that's why I
Just
had
keep
put these in there.
inquiring
Yeah,
as we're getting closer.
so
Superintendent's report, is that where we're at? All right.
So Brewster is going odd even, Dennis is going odd even again. We imposed odd even last year, didn't rescind them. So I guess at this point, we are still currently under water restrictions that were imposed last year. If there's a desire to reaffirm that, I would say we can put it on the next meeting's agenda to reaffirm the restrictions, but that would be my recommendation at this point.
I was wondering if we could plan, even if we don't know the specifics yet, because we need to tell them again, I mean.
Yeah.
If that might be appropriate for the back of the buck slip
Yeah,
to go in July.
we'll put up signboards too.
Well, I think we should put up that big electric sign somewhere,
Yeah.
like at a main intersection.
Now the town meeting's over, we'll have
Yeah.
freed up
We
signboards.
should use that.
We're not up that much.
Yeah,
No,
that's what I mean, it's,
Yeah.
you know,
We definitely need,
Fortunately, we're
Status.
breaking even.
Absolutely.
quo.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah.
and I guess one thing that, just food for thought before we take the discussion up at the next meeting, we have to, I guess, in my opinion, need to be more black and white in that it's odd even. If you don't have the adequate controller, then you need to talk to your landscape, or irrigation supply to have them install a proper controller to allow for odd even watering. Because we can't, I don't think it's policeable if we say odd even, but if you have a different controller that only does, days of the week, that it makes it impossible to police because you don't know driving past a property.
Right.
We did have a few people complain about that last year, that they couldn't, they only had days of the week, but I think, when we're getting into 2 years running now without recharging the aquifer, I would argue that it's appropriate to keep to odd even and keep it black and white.
Well, maybe we can say this for next meeting's discussion for these businesses, but we had talked briefly about, instead of odd even, like picking 2 days, like, I don't know, Tuesday and Friday or something, and just having those days and go with it, so.
And we could do 2 days as well. That is what Orleans knew, so it was mentioned earlier, Orleans is the only one with the Water Management Act permit. Their permit dictates 2-day-a-week watering once they're.
All right, let's put this on the
restricted.
agenda to have a discussion. To have a
Yeah.
discussion.
I do have a couple other things. I did finally get some more information on the land taking for the 5 parcels out back here on Chatham Road. We finally got the survey done. I've received that. I provided that to legal counsel for review. They said the survey looks good. I reached out to the Cape Cod Commission. If you recall, we were intending to fund the owner's unknown, or the appraised value that we have to set aside in escrow from the Cape Cod Commission DRI funds. So I've started to reach back out and trying to coordinate a meeting to see how we facilitate that exchange of money. And then, once we get those answers, legal said that we have to publish a legal notice 14 days in advance of the Water Wastewater Commission executing the taking. So I would say it may be too early to pick that date now, and I'd like to get a little more information from the Cape Cod Commission, but once we have all the pieces to the puzzle, we'll be looking to schedule that hearing to do the taking. Another thing that I'd like to bring back for the next agenda with respect to wastewater is we have, one of the things that we need to do is effluent recharge site investigation. When we start to consider a partnership with the town of Dennis, one thing that we can bring to the table is an effluent recharge site. But we need to understand how much effluent that site can take and to, bring that to the table. So GHD did provide me with a proposal to conduct the effluent recharge. We did talk about it a couple meetings ago. I had requested the board's permission to use our staff to excavate the hole to do the 10-foot diameter ring with the infiltration test. They provided a scope and contract in the amount of $60,000 to do the modeling component of it and the oversight and the witnessing the test and whatnot. I did speak with Carol. She was in agreement that that is an expense that would be within the professional services category within the wastewater operating budget. So I'd like to bring back at the next meeting to see if the board would be open to us executing that contract and utilizing the professional services line item so that we can get that work underway.
What site are they using then?
Right now, we're looking at the DPW site as well as the owner's unknown parcel adjacent to it.
Even though, it would be, an absolutely legitimate expense to use professional services, since that's over 50,000, does that still have to go through the Board of Selectmen, or?
No, and it's because it's engineering services, it's exempt from
That's right.
30B.
Yeah, great.
Is there a set gallonage before you have to bring it back?
With Dennis, or
Yeah,
just,
well,
the issue over in Dennis is the site that they're proposing to build a treatment plant on, as I understand it, doesn't have sufficient capacity to have a recharge site that would
Right.
handle all of their wastewater from the plant. They have a number of sites sporadically laid out through town. Some of them, I understand, are within the water district land that I think there may be some controversy between the district and the town on that. So there's some uncertainty about effluent recharge
Right.
sites over there.
So you gotta bring it back.
So we'd have to bring it back.
It's a good thing to bring it back anyway, because it's where
We're
it came from.
recharge.
To recharge in the
Yeah.
area we took it out of.
Can we, for another meeting, get, a picture of this area? I know you had
Yeah.
one before that had the little dots and the 5, but, land and recharge areas can become very controversial, so I think it would be good for this board to know specifically
Yeah.
the area we're talking about.
So, just an industrial zone.
Whatever, it just seems like it can always be a surprise once.
Yeah, and there were, 12 or 15 different sites
There's a number of them.
identified.
Yeah, there's a number of them identified.
Right, there's a bigger one on,
Yeah.
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 I would like to know
Yep.
where it is, so I don't get,
And is there a point where all that engineering has to get redone or reevaluated as far as the recharge? I mean, would things have shifted, or maybe not, I don't know.
No, it's more that it needs to be so they didn't do this much of an evaluation previously. So in the original CWMP, they didn't do the full, what we're proposing here. So this is really the next step. Once we complete this, we wouldn't have to do it again.
But I mean, if you're taking the data that they did originally, does that original data need to be redone for all those 12 or 15 sites, however many they were? And I'm asking like would things have changed in what's been a decade or something since they did that? Would things have changed underground in a decade to warrant a new,
No, they wouldn't, subsurface wouldn't have changed. But like I said, they didn't do an infiltration test. They're making those based on assumptions. No.
I thought they did
No, they didn't do actual infiltration. They didn't go out, like what we're proposing to do is go out, dig a hole, install the 10-foot ring, flood it for, 24 hours a week, and catalog with groundwater monitoring wells to see the surcharge and we have to make sure that that doesn't impact, any nearby streams, ponds, water bodies. So that work hasn't been, or wasn't done, and hasn't been done.
Wow.
They were preliminary, they're all preliminary site investigations that said, there's a lot of USGS data on subsurface conditions that they can estimate an effluent recharge rate, but that has to be confirmed with site investigation before we can take it to the next step.
Oh, okay. Because I met some of the engineers that did it years ago, and I was under what they had said. They were surprised.
Anything else, Dan?
Yeah, just 2-3 quick things. I did reach out, so I attended a cybersecurity tabletop exercise, about a month ago or so. Members of, FBI, cybersecurity, Homeland Security, all the players were there. They talked about a service that's offered through DHS, through the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency, where they can do vulnerability and hygiene scanning as well as a remote penetration test. So I've made contact with them, and I'm going to be going through that process to have the FBI try to hack us and see what they can come up with.
Sure it's the FBI?
Yeah. Yes. Timing on that's unknown at this point. It goes in, I have to fill out a bunch of applications and things like that, then I go into a queue and they get to it when they get to it, essentially, and I think they come back with a report, but I'll be interested to see how that turns out.
Yeah.
I guess lastly, I don't know if I mentioned this at the last meeting, I did hear back from our insurance company that they are going to cover the full replacement of the Station 7 generator that was chewed up with the snow and the blizzard. So we are on the hook. We have a $10,000 deductible, so we are on the hook for $10,000 of it. It's a $36,000 generator. So that's moving forward. And that is all I have.
Affordable. Did you get your affordable yet?
Not yet.
That's very important.
Next
But
meeting, John.
it's
Next meeting,
coming,
John.
right? Or
We
didn't it get
Yeah.
approved or no?
We haven't talked about it.
No.
We talked about it, we haven't.
Oh, we talked about it. We
Yeah, but,
didn't.
because I think it was a wish list item.
Yeah.
And then John got excited.
Well, it was
about
supposed to be included in phase 2. It was supposed to be in phase 2, contract 2, but when they scaled that back, CDM cut that generator out of the project unknowingly to the town. So much so that when I was talking to DEP, if you may recall, we had to install a generator at the Hardin Lane pump station because it was originally going to have a plug for the tow behind. And DEP said basically that they didn't know that the project was scaled back and that generator was cut out, and that they wouldn't have allowed that station to be built, and they wouldn't have authorized our startup had we not put that generator in. So just
Cost us a little bit more.
actually it was cheaper, us doing it with the little generator than buying a big,
Well, we have the generator, and we're gonna get a generator, so,
ideally.
yeah.
Which maybe we should consider at a later date preparing a 5 or 7 year wastewater department capital plan.
Right.
That, things of that nature that no longer fall on the selectmen, but become
Right.
operational things
Right.
to
It's a
consider.
great idea.
I mean, that generator could be used for water too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I talked to Scott about, I want to get all those outlets put on the back of
Plugs,
it,
yeah.
yeah.
Are
We'll put that on the
they
agenda.
like around the same price?
The generator, we would size it to be able to handle our biggest pump, so it could handle everything up to that,
So like under 50K?
bigger than that.
Oh, bigger.
Anything on the commissioner's report, Alan?
No, I'm good.
Judith?
Yeah.
John? Noreen?
Fine.
Dan, just, May 12th, staff meeting?
Yeah, yes.
So, we're talking about doing a staff meeting for all employees, basically having pizza at lunchtime, if the commissioners wanted to come, and just have lunch with the employees. I mean, it's gonna be a couple pizzas and whatever. So it's May 12th at what time, Dan?
I had 12:30 in the calendar.
12:30. It's a Thursday.
So we just wander down here around 12:30 and see what's going on?
Yeah, we'll have some pizza and
Okay,
pop, water,
okay, great.
and,
I may be out of state, but
and then we need to do, sorry, go ahead.
Is there any contribution needed, or?
No, we have a gift card
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Did
12:30.
you say her credit card?
Nobody's credit card, nobody's credit card.
I'm leaving to go meet with the title man. I'll have no money left
Yeah.
by the time I'm done.
Just one other thing too, I was out driving around and I noticed a hydrant over on Tucker's Way, which is off of Oped Brooks. It was a red hydrant, which kind of struck me. So I called Dan and come to find out this hydrant was put in umpteen years ago, but isn't operational.
Oh.
So my concern is it not being operational and it doesn't look like, there's no signs on it to say it's not up and running, so I hate to have something happen out there in the fire department. So can we do something as to,
Yeah, I'll have, and we bagged them before, and the residents complained, and they wanted them taken off. I'll see about having some of the out-of-service rings put on
okay.
the bonnet.
And I'm sure the fire department knows it's
Yeah.
not in service.
Why isn't it-
Yeah, they do. Used
Okay.
to have bags over.
Yeah,
And
The new road?
the main road in off of Queen Anne
right,
does not have water,
right,
even piping.
right.
But as you go down in, they added to that subdivision and had to put water in.
Right,
But it's a dead line.
right.
It was, I think it was before, so we currently have a regulation that requires anyone developing or installing to bring the water main to the furthest lengths of the property. I don't believe that regulation was in place at the time this subdevelopment was put in, so they were required under the subdivision law to put water main and a hydrant in, but there was nothing to connect it to.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
The next meeting before Noreen goes, next
Thank
meeting.
you.
We're at the 5th right now, so it'll be the week ending the 21st. I'm actually on vacation that week, so is there anything,
Yes, I would even entertain one next week. I only say that because that GHD contract for 60,000, oh, it's May. No, we could do the week after. Sorry, I'm thinking it's the end of June and end of the fiscal year.
all right,
So, yeah, I'm good the week after.
so
Yeah, go ahead.
week ending the 28th.
Would
All
you
right.
prefer to have that sign though and get them going, or?
Oh, right, with the water restrictions thing, if we want to do that sooner than later.
Then let's do it next week.
But I mean about the GHD one?
Yeah.
When you prefer to get them going and?
Yeah,
What do you want to do next
the 12th.
12th? We're going to be here anyway. Have it at 11?
Except for Judith.
Oh, you're out of state.
I might, yeah, I don't know. My mother's been sick and I couldn't take my son for the college tours during
Oh.
April vacation, so.
Are you going to be out all week, out of state all week?
Either then or the following week. Don't worry, you don't need me. You'll be one short, that'll be fine.
So what were we discussing on the 12th?
The GHD contract and water restrictions.
Unless you want to do the afternoon of the 11th, like from noon or at 1.
That's fine with me. It doesn't matter to me to get it done.
At 1 o'clock on Wednesday?
That's fine, it doesn't matter to me. Does that work for everybody?
The 11th,
All right.
that would,
That way we'll just roll through for pizza and we don't have to meet the next day.
yeah, exactly,
Sorry, I
yeah.
forgot that.
No, which is, I think, nicer too, if
Yeah.
it's supposed to be a,
Right, running into a room, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so 1 PM, the 11th, next week, Wednesday,
Yeah.
correct?
Do we want to shoot the 26th for the end of the month?
Fine by me.
Wait, are we not doing the 11th?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, okay, so May 11th.
At 1.
And I was proposing a second.
And the 26th at 11.
26 at 11?
I'm gonna go with those. If you change them, let me know. See you later.
All right,
Thank you.
So May 11th, and the other one's on the 12th, at 12:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the 11th is at 1,
Yep.
right? Yeah. 11, 12:30, 1 o'clock.
All right, so do it again. The 11th is at 1, the 12th is at 12:30, and the 26th is at
11?
11. Got it.
all right. I have I have May 11th, 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Is that right?
No,
No, 1 o'clock.
Is that okay? I
Yes,
have
fine,
meetings.
yeah.
and then-
I have May 11th at 1 o'clock. May 12th is the staff meeting at 12:30, is that what it is? 12:30? And what's the next meeting?
26th at 11.
26th at 11, all right. At 11, okay. All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.